The quarterback play around the NFL was pretty rough in round 2 of the NFL playoffs. We'll tell you the single quarterback whose dynasty value dropped the most next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every game day during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is the Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're taking a look at the biggest winners and losers from round 2 of the NFL playoffs. We'll talk about the Falcons hiring former Browns head coach, Kevin Stefanski. But Fabs, I want to start at the quarterback position because across the playoffs, it's been pretty rough for these guys. Even Josh Allen had a bunch of turnovers despite his team scoring 30 points. Why was it so bad this weekend?
By the way, the more I look at that Brandon Cooks play, and then you look at the Devontae Adams play, and also I believe it was Jaden Higgins in the New England-Houston game, I think the Bills got jobbed. But that's neither here nor there. Josh Allen, from a fantasy perspective, was still very good. But yeah, the quarterbacks have been turning the ball over a ton. I mean, Drake Maye had 4 fumbles and an interception. Now, he only lost 2 of the fumbles, but still, you put the ball on the ground, and that's a risk, and he only had 14 fantasy points. The biggest loser here, though, without question, from a dynasty perspective, is CJ Stroud. I do not recognize him. I don't know who the quarterback was back when he was a rookie, because that rookie was excellent, and that quarterback had his, let's just say he had a jetpack on, and he was skyrocketing up the dynasty ranks at quarterback. This kid has fallen off a cliff. You could make these Sam Darnold, I'm seeing ghost jokes all you want, and it's completely warranted. CJ Stroud has gone from a player that everyone wanted to now someone maybe you don't.
So there was a point where he was up to quarterback 4 in dynasty leagues, like not that long ago.
Doesn't surprise me.
Going into the month of December, he was quarterback 15, and I've got to believe it's gone down quite a bit since then, partially because, I mean, he was bad at the end of the season. He's been bad in both playoff games. I mean, it's never good when Twitter is calling for the backup quarterback, like ever.
I was.
I mean, so was I. It's not great when it's happening in back-to-back weeks, because a lot of people last week against the Steelers were calling for Davis Mills at halftime when he was awful in that game. So he was being drafted as QB 15, but Fabs, I'm looking at the quarterbacks that were being drafted behind him: Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, Cam Ward, Sam Darnold. I think we're getting to the point where, like, CJ Stroud's going to be drafted next year in the QB 22, QB 23 range.
If the Texans were smart, they would not hand him the starting job, and they would put him in a competition with Davis Mills.
But they have to decide on the 5th-year option here, like in
no. Why would they give him a 5th-year option? I wouldn't. Why would you do that? He's had 1 good year. That's it. And I know that the Texans have gotten to the playoffs every year under DeMeco Ryans, but that's about the defense, man. You know, that's all about the defense. So, you know, Joe Mixon, before he went down, you know, the previous year, he was very good for a lot of the season. That helped on the offensive side of the football. We're going to talk about Woody Marks, who, again, was never a guy who thought he could be a consistent fantasy running back. He was bad. Why would the Texans give him the 5th-year option? You got to sing for your supper, man. Go out there and prove that rookie year wasn't a fluke, because right now it looks very fluky.
Because David Mulligetta is going to bully them into doing it. But let's go through a couple quarterbacks that I want your thoughts on, in terms of whether you would take Stroud over them. Bryce Young, all the way back to that 2023 draft class. Would you have Stroud or Young?
I can't believe I'm saying Bryce Young.
Daniel Jones.
Well, does Daniel Jones come back and play for the Colts? Does Daniel
Probably.
Jones start next season on
Probably not.
the PUP list? I mean, like, I don't. That one's tough because there's too many
Okay.
question marks. But if Daniel Jones were healthy, Daniel Jones.
Okay, let's go through a couple more of these. Tyler Shuck.
Oh, shucks. I'm going Tyler, man.
Okay. A couple more. Kyler Murray.
Where's Kyler going to play? When Kyler plays, he's actually pretty darn good.
That's the point.
Unless he goes to the Jets where quarterbacks go to die, I'd probably still stick with Kyler.
So you realize that you're ranking, I mean, like in terms of our, dynasty value right now, Stroud is like QB 25, QB 26.
He's earned it, man. I mean, like, look at the numbers. Brother, he had 5 interceptions and 5 fumbles in 2 playoff games.
And it could have been worse. Like, that's the thing is, like, there were a couple balls that like hit the hands of New England defenders. He was awful. Absolutely awful.
And I mean, yeah. Like, I mean, I get it. Okay, no Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz got hurt, but still, he was bad last week too. And he was bad during the regular season. How many games could you have started CJ Stroud with confidence in? Probably I can count on one hand. And I remember down the stretch, there were a couple of games I thought maybe Stroud could be a streamer, and he wasn't any good. So, I mean, we're talking about the depths of the quarterback position. I don't know if I can find too many quarterbacks that I wouldn't run ahead of CJ Stroud right now.
Oh, let's talk about Bo Nix because he's not a loser because of his play. He actually played pretty well against Buffalo. He had one kind of fluky interception, but he made a bunch of big time throws in this game. The reason he's a loser is because, of course, he got hurt on one of the final plays. And it's just a bummer because this playoffs, it would have been so exciting to watch Bo Nix versus Drake Maye in the AFC Championship game. Now we get Jarrett Stidham. I'm just bummed for Bo Nix.
Me too. And it was a surprise. It was a shock because, I mean, he finished the game. He did the post-game interview with my buddy Tracy, and no one knew that he had gotten hurt. Although now when you look back, and Tracy actually posted something, Tracy Wolfson, on her social media, that like you can see that he wasn't putting any weight on that ankle during the post-game interview. And it's a bummer now because Bo Nix, I love good young quarterback play. You know, who doesn't as a fantasy fan or an NFL fan? And he's been exceptional in 2 years. And now, unfortunately, we're going to look at Jarrett Stidham. And I don't know how in the world the NFL can let him start a game as big as the Super Bowl. I mean, listen, I'm not saying I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Well, we've had some backup quarterbacks play before.
Not like this, Marcus. Not like this. He hasn't played a game. He hasn't thrown a pass this year. Like you can say, okay, Jeff Hostetler. Okay, well, Jeff Hostetler started a lot of games for the Giants that year. Then you could go back to, Nick Foles. Nick Foles in 2013 had 27 touchdowns and 2 picks. Like he was ascending as a starting quarterback. Jarrett Stidham has never been a starting quarterback. Belichick drafted him to eventually replace Tom Brady, and then he wasn't any good. And then he went to the Raiders, and he wasn't any good. And now Sean Payton can say all he wants. That is a massive disadvantage for the Broncos.
I think if Denver had Houston's defense, I actually think they'd be able to, potentially win this game because they almost did it last week. And there's no way Stidham can play worse than what CJ Stroud did against New England, right? But they don't have that defense. They've got a very good defense, but as we saw on Saturday night, you can kind of throw against this defense in certain spots. So tough look. Let's also mention Drake Maye. We're not moving him down in our dynasty rankings or anything like that. And he's been fine. He had a couple of really nice throws, but he's also turned the ball over a bunch.
Dude,
I think it was 4 fumbles.
4 fumbles. Yeah.
4 fumbles. I think for the Patriots to take the next step as an offense, they've got to really work on that offensive line. Houston's defense is unbelievable, but Maye's got to be better at protecting the ball.
I mean, I know the Chargers have a good defense too, but he wasn't any good really in the first round as well. And he's got the most fumbles of any quarterback in the NFL this season. And so in fantasy, we didn't care because we were just looking at 21 points per game, and he was phenomenal. He was consistent, and I love him. And a couple of bad performances against really good defenses in the playoffs is not going to, skew my opinion of Drake Maye. He's gotten the Patriots to the AFC Championship game, and there's a good chance he's going to end up going to the Super Bowl against Jarrett Stidham. So you know, it was funny too. Do you remember the graphic that the NFL put out at the beginning of the playoffs where they had all of the quarterbacks like with their backs to, I guess, you would say the shot, and they were all facing the stadium at Santa Clara. The first four quarterbacks in that row were the four quarterbacks who are playing in this game, sans Bo Nix. But Bo Nix was in there as well.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of funny. But listen, I'm not dropping Drake Maye in my rankings. No, that is not happening after a couple of bad games. And he may not have a good game against Denver either. Denver's defense pretty good too, especially at Mile High. But this performance, he needs to protect the ball better. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I'm not dropping him in my rankings because of this.
All right, let's talk about some more players that disappointed in round 2 of the NFL playoffs. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Ultimate QB. Have you ever wished that you could become a pro quarterback, getting drafted first overall by your favorite team? Well, now you can, and there's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number 1 draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness, to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the number 1 QB career game mode on the market right now, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. You'll deal with the ups and downs of a quarterback career, from rookie nerves to playoff drama, and every choice shapes your journey. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline. Perfect for when you want to just sneak in a game or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special for you guys. Use promo code LOCKEDON in the game store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend, QB1, it's your legacy.
Marcus, the big game is almost here, and there's no better way to stay locked into every moment than with Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where it always feels good to be right. With football season coming down to its final stretch, now's the perfect time to close it out strong. And Prize Picks makes watching the game even more exciting by letting you build simple lineups around player projections. So there's no drafts, there's no waiting, just football action all the way through the playoffs. Prize Picks is incredibly easy to get started. I mean, I use the app all the time. You pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on their projections. It makes watching games way more engaging as well, especially during the playoffs and the eventual big game there in Santa Clara. And it's a great way to keep playing fantasy football even after the season-long leagues are finished. And you guys kind of know, I kind of like fantasy football. My favorite feature is probably the early payouts, which let you cash out if a player gets off to a hot start, and we all love that dough. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Also, thank you guys for making us the number 1 sports podcast network. If you haven't done so already, go check out the new Everydayer Club. You're going to get access to ad-free audio for the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. Just go to lockedondynasty.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Fabs, we're going to get to some more losers, but really quickly, it was not a great week for winners. There was very few players that exceeded expectations. I wanted to run through a couple. Kayshon Boutte, 3 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. He's actually had a really nice season with New England. I think his fantasy upside is always going to be capped a little bit. But this is a guy that I think is a reliable option that can be a weekly flex starter in the right matchup. And I just think he's shown quite a bit this season.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it a breakout year, but he had a good year. Like all of a sudden, we were talking about Kayshon Boutte a heck of a lot more than maybe we thought we would. New England's wide receivers, outside of Stephon Diggs, and Diggs is, older. He's in his early 30s already. So there's an opportunity for Boutte to certainly earn a bigger role in this offense moving forward. And I'm talking about into 2026 and beyond.
And I think the thing is, like Fabs, is like Drake Maye doesn't have awful weapons. I think you going into the season, you thought, oh, it's only Stephon Diggs coming off a torn ACL.
There are other,
now there's guys that you feel like, okay, Booty is a good NFL receiver. And I do think that matters when we're talking about like Drake Maye moving forward.
Yep. He's a guy, I mean, only had 3 catches in the game, but he had 75 yards and a touchdown. He's kind of like that deep threat. He can make plays in the vertical passing game. So yeah, certainly a player who's not only rosterable in Dynasty, but like you said, I mean, you could be utilizing him based on the matchups next season.
This one makes me really mad and sad
at
the same time. Kenneth Walker, who I've had on every single fantasy league, Dynasty league team, because we were right. We thought the Seattle offense under Clint Kubiak was going to be so much better at running the football, and they have been. But 22 touches, 145 yards, 3 touchdowns for Kenneth Walker, who never got to score touchdowns during the regular season. It's all very, very frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, Charbonnet got hurt during the game, and I'm sure that's part of the reason why Walker had 22 touches. But like, actually, look at him lately. Okay,
he
smokes the Niners for 35. In the previous game before that, in the regular season against the Niners, he had a good game. He had a really good game against the Rams, which he kind of owned the Rams in 2 games this year. And I remember writing in my 101 fantasy football facts for 2025 that he averaged fewer than 10 points per game against every team in the league except for the Rams, and that was over 20 points per game against the NFC West rival, which frustrated the hell out of me. It frustrated the hell out of every fantasy manager, just like Marcus, who had him. But this is what this guy's upside is. And I hope he gets the hell out of Seattle and goes someplace else after he wins the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll find out. The Seattle Seahawks have to be the favorites right now, and go to a team. Again, Marcus wants Cowboys. Okay, that's fine. Chiefs,
yeah, of course.
Texans, whatever, wherever it is, where he can be a featured back. Because this dude is the goods. He's just got to be given an opportunity to make good on being so talented. And that didn't happen until kind of recently this season. So yeah, very frustrating to see him just go absolutely nuclear when the fantasy football seasons are already over.
All right, that's enough being positive. Let's get back to being negative.
I know we did. I was when I'm researching the show, I'm like, I can't find any winners. They're all losers this week.
Keon Coleman. Now, he did score a touchdown, and honestly, his touchdown was really impressive. It was on RPO. He made a great play to dive into the end zone. But we're not going to remember him from this game for doing that. He dropped a clear touchdown in the back of the end zone. Now, it would have got canceled out by a penalty, but it would have given Buffalo another shot on 3rd down. I think the thing is, we talked about this on Friday. Like, this was an opportunity for Coleman to show that he can be a reliable outside receiver, and you can't trust him at all. And I think going into this offseason, there's no way that Buffalo can think about him as a top 3 option. And if you're not a top 3 option, you better play special teams, which he doesn't, which means he's going to be a healthy scratch. I think Keon Coleman's dynasty value is gone. I mean, there's nothing here.
Bro, I mean, he was a healthy scratch how many times during the regular season? They don't even want to use him.
And they brought back Gabe Davis, and they used McCall Hardman over
Brandon Cooks. Like, the rotting husk of Brandon Cooks. I mean, it was more targeted in the offense than Keon Coleman. He's done, dude. Like, well, it's only a couple years. I don't care. They have no thought in their mind of utilizing him as a featured wide receiver in this league. He didn't play when he was healthy this year because they didn't like what he was doing off the field or whatever. Maybe it wasn't a good practice. I have no idea. Keon Coleman's done. Unfortunately, Buffalo needs to get a damn wide receiver, right? I mean, they haven't had, Khalil Shakir is nice. He's a complimentary receiver. He's not an alpha dude. They need to get a receiver in the offseason for Josh Allen, and they need it badly. And I know they had the injuries, but even the injuries to the players that they had, I mean, Gabe Davis is no great shakes anymore. Tyrell Shavers is, he's not great. They need to get a wide receiver in there for Josh Allen, and they need to do it fast this offseason.
Another player that we need to mention is from that 2024 draft is Odunze, who he made a couple nice catches against the Rams, but he also dropped a surefire touchdown. And it's been this way for a while now. This against the Rams, 2 catches for 44 yards on 6 targets, which is exactly what he did against the Packers last week. 6 targets, 2 catches for 44 yards. He's been, since coming back from that injury, he's been downright awful. I mean, it's been pretty rough. Now you could say, well, maybe he's not healthy, but I think it's the emergence of Colston Loveland. DJ Moore has played a lot better. Luther Burden has been more involved in this offense. I think we just all assumed that Rome Odunze would be the number one target in this offense because he was at the beginning of the year. And now I'm open to all possibilities. Like, it would not shock me at all if the Bears moved on from Rome, traded him for more picks to address their defense, because I think he's like the third or fourth best option in this passing attack.
Yeah. And I've been really high on him, and I was, doing a victory lap in the first month of the season because he was literally like one of the best wide receivers in fantasy football. And then the numbers started to get inconsistent, and then he got hurt. And since he's come back, it's been bad. But I mean, listen, Luther Burden hasn't done anything lately either. So I mean, let's not say it. The Bears have gone completely to DJ Moore and Colston Loveland.
I think the only thing with Burden is that we know that Ben Johnson drafted him.
I get it.
That's only, but you're right. I mean, Luther Burden, he's had a couple nice plays here or there.
24 yards.
Yeah, nothing more significant than Rome. It's just I trust that he's going to be there next year.
No, I do too, and I don't know that they would want to give up on Rome Odunze either. I mean, he's shown flashes. We'll find out right during the offseason, but
if you're a dynasty manager, you probably hope that he does get moved, because what's the upside in a Bears offense with all of these other weapons?
I mean, it's true, but you're also playing in a Ben Johnson offense, which has certainly got its advantages as well. And
Correct.
We'll have to see what they do with DJ Moore. But the problem here is that if the Bears come back in 2026 with the same exact group of receivers, none of these guys are going to be breakout candidates outside of Colston Loveland, who already started to break out. All the wide receivers are going to be very difficult to trust in seasonal and dynasty, at least for 2020. So we've got to see what the Bears do. If one of those wide receivers moves and it's not going to be Burden, I still think it would be DJ Moore, but I don't know. I'm just guessing.
That's my gut feel as well, but I'm open to all possibilities because of how poorly the season went for Rome.
Well, it went exceptionally well for the first month, and then it went,
Correct.
In a hell in a handbasket. So that'll be something to watch certainly this offseason. But the Bears are loaded right now with young talent. The Bears are a dynasty cornucopia. When you're talking about Caleb Williams and you're talking about Kyle Monengai and Burden and Rome, and, they both still have great upside. Colston Loveland's, that dude, it seems like at tight end. I actually did a 1-man 5-round redraft for Sports Illustrated, and Colston Loveland was the third tight end off the board and the third tight end off the board in the top 60, and the only one of only 3 off the board in the top 60. So I'm really high on him.
All right, let's talk about Kevin Stefanski being hired by the Atlanta Falcons. What does that mean for Bijan Robinson? What does it mean for Drake London? We'll tell you next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We are in the championship round of the NFL playoffs, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you're going to see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets that you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. Like, I love the Patriots to beat Denver this weekend. I don't see any way that the Broncos are going to score more than like 17 points. I think the Patriots take care of business. Now you can go and apply your profit boost to get an even bigger payout while the playoff games get rolling. So visit FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Guys, we got a big-time coaching hire, and this is Kevin Stefanski being hired by the Atlanta Falcons. They went to an offensive-minded head coach after having Raheem Morris last year. They had Zach Robinson as the play caller. Now, Stefanski's offense is going to be a little bit different from what they had under Robinson, but who do you think stands to benefit the most from Kevin Stefanski being in Atlanta?
I mean, I want to say Bijan, but I mean, how much better can you get?
Well, I think, honestly,
Right?
you're right. I think the floor is it's going to be there because we know that Stefanski's rushing games are usually pretty good.
Yeah.
He's going to load Bijan up with touches.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back, and I only went back and researched Cleveland, obviously he was the offensive coordinator for a short time in Minnesota as well. But from 2020 to 2025, 1 year he had 2 running backs in the top 11, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. May not remember that. Nick Chubb was phenomenal in Cleveland before he ended up having that horrible injury. And then even a few years ago, you remember Jerome Ford was a top 16 fantasy running back in Stefanski's offense. Quinshon Judkins would have been probably a top 15 or 20 running back had he played an entire season. He only played 14 games. He was the RB 26. Remember, he didn't play at the beginning of the year, and then unfortunately he got hurt. So yeah. Again, maybe it's good for Bijan's floor. I mean, he's already great. I don't know how much better he can get. But other than that, I'm not sure who it really helps because I don't know if Kyle Pitts is going to be back next year. The other position that Stefanski has really had success with is tight end from a fantasy standpoint. Harold Phantom was a tight end 6. The year before that, David Njoku was a tight end 11. The year before that, David Njoku was a tight end 6. The year before that, David Njoku was the tight end 11, coincidentally enough. And so if Pitts comes back, he's a free agent. That certainly helps him. I don't think it helps Drake London. Drake London's already great. And really, Cleveland's wide receiver. Do you know who's had the best fantasy season under Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland? It was Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the wide receiver 10. And then Jerry Jeudy had a wide receiver 12 season 2 years ago, but that was a complete outlier because all of his success came in like 7 games with Jameis Winston under center. And then when you look at the quarterback situation, I don't know who the quarterback is in Atlanta. And do you know who the best quarterback has been from a fantasy standpoint under Stefanski in Cleveland, Marcus?
Oh, man. I'm sure it's Baker, right?
Baker, but he was only QB 17.
Well, I mean, I think we know who the quarterback's going to be now that Stefanski's there, to be honest with you.
We do?
Yeah. I feel very confident that it's going to be Kirk Cousins. And the reason why is there's a history there. Kirk Cousins was in Minnesota.
I get it. I don't have any problems with that. I know you don't like Kirk Cousins.
Well, it's not that it's not alarm,
but
I do think he has a noodle arm. But I think in terms of I think he's going to be the guy that's running the offense. I think he's going to be great for getting the ball to Bijan. It's just going to limit maybe the upside of Drake London. I won't be surprised if Atlanta moves on from Kyle Pitts and they bring in David Njoku, right, to kind of fill that role.
Dude, look at you connecting the dots. I love that. But
this is generally what happens when you hire a coach. They bring their guys over. We should mention Bill Callahan was one of the big hires that Kevin Stefanski made, who is the offensive line coach, widely regarded as one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. He was the offensive line coach in Cleveland when Nick Chubb had all those monster seasons. He left and that offensive line started to really crumble. I like this for Bijan and Drake London. I think this is a really good fit.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm happy. I'm kind of bummed for those out there who are Titans fans because I was kind of thinking maybe Stefanski would go there. But now the rest of the the coaching carousel, is very interesting from a fantasy perspective. And here's why. Stefanski's gone. We know Harbaugh's in New York, and that doesn't really, move the needle one way or another from a fantasy perspective, I think, for the Giants, because we kind of already like a lot of their young players. But Mike McCarthy, offensive-minded head coach, potentially, maybe does he go to Tennessee? Does he go to Pittsburgh? When you look at some of these head coaching candidates now, you've kind of narrowed down a little bit who might come in and help an offense. There's some defensive guys that are potentially going, Brian Flores is the first guy that comes to mind, obviously. But from a fantasy standpoint, how many more coaches are out there? I mean, maybe Cliff Kingsbury, if he gets a job someplace. Mike McDaniel. I see Mike McDaniel more as an offensive coordinator, though, Marcus. I don't see him as a head coach. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about him. He just seems like more of an OC than a head coach, and he had some success in Miami, and at the end of the day, he was like a 500 coach. But wouldn't you like to see him go to Detroit, for example, and be the OC? I think he would be a better fit there for fantasy managers.
So I think it's fair to say that Kevin Stefanski upgraded jobs after being fired, right? He went from Cleveland to Atlanta.
Oh, no question.
I won't be surprised if Mike McDaniel is the next one to go from being fired in Miami to being hired in, let's say, Baltimore. I know the interviews went
Oh
very,
my
very well.
God. As the head coach of the Ravens, I would hate that. I would hate it.
I think the reason
If I'm
why
a
is,
Ravens fan, I would hate it.
although if you can design a really good rushing attack that hits big plays down the field, and you've got Lamar Jackson, a quarterback, it's not the worst thing in the world.
I
Really
know.
quickly,
To me, the Ravens scream defense, and
I know, but that's maybe why they need to change things up a little bit. They need to get somebody that's a little bit more offensive minded focus. Can I put my tin hat on for a second on why?
Go ahead.
Kevin
I want to actually see you with the tin hat, though.
Yeah, I wish I had one. I don't think Kevin Stefanski took the Tennessee job because he was dead set on hiring Bill Callahan, who's one of his best friends.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Bill Callahan was the offensive line coach in Tennessee last year with his son as the head coach, Brian Callahan. And I think once Stefanski knew that who was going to be on his staff, just never was going to happen. So
very. You're like the Sherlock Holmes of NFL.
No,
coaches.
I just follow this way too closely. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. If you haven't done so already, check out the new Everydayer Club, ad-free episodes of this podcast, plus Discord access where you can come chat with us. Make sure that you follow the show wherever you get your podcasts, on Twitter, on YouTube, on every podcast app. We'll put it everywhere so you guys can find it. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Check out the Locked On NFL podcast for your second listen of the day. And we will see you guys right back here tomorrow.